The following day, we see Sheed undressing and looking forward to his bath in the hot springs. Then he got into the hot spring and Alexia was shocked to see her crush Sheed. He ignored her and enjoyed his bath in the hot springs. Meanwhile, Alexia wondered if he noticed her, and she was shocked that he could stay so calm. Then Sheed learned that she was a special guest for the goddess's trial. This is how Sheed learned that ancient warriors would appear at the goddess trial. Additionally, Alexia said that she will not participate in the goddess trial, and she tried to get Sheed to join the Crimson Knights, but he refused. Afterwards, Sheed told her to stop looking at his big Excalibur. She said his sword was tiny, but he showed Alexia that he was the reincarnation of Johnny Sins. Because of this, he showed Alexia his great skills, and Alexia was amazed by him. A few days later we see Archbishop Jack, and he announced the goddess trial. He said that Goddess Beatrix blessed Olivier with powers to defeat the demon Diablos. Alexia hated Jack because she was sent to the Sacred Land to investigate the Archbishop's death. But Jack was the new Archbishop, and she was annoyed by the order not to do anything because she traveled to the Sacred Land for several days for nothing. Then she noticed that all the men were cheering for Beta, and she was jealous of her big boobs. Beta knew Alexia was staring at her, and Beta didn't like her. The reason for this was that Beta was jealous, that she was in a relationship with her beloved Master Shadow. Beta got a crush on Sheed and wished he had confessed his love to her. Suddenly, Alexia got angry because Beta was looking down on her, and she steps on her foot. Meanwhile, Rose didn't even notice that the two girls were arguing. Then, the goddess trial began, and Jack announced the start of the special event. He activated a protective barrier and opened the sanctuary door to summon strong ancient warriors. However, the goddess trial started, and everyone was excited to fight against the ancient warriors. Meanwhile, Sheed overheard the background characters talking, and wondered if there was a chance he could put on a great show as Eminence and Shadow. A short time later, the next challenger was called because no ancient warrior showed up. Sheed also wanted to fight against strong ancient warriors to put on a great show as Shadow. He then wondered where Alpha was, and she infiltrated the city with the other members of Shadow Garden. In the evening, Sheed was bored because no one managed to summon an ancient warrior. Suddenly his name was announced as a challenger, and everyone was surprised to hear his name. Sheed was shocked about the announcement and thought about options to avoid being punished. As a result, he chose option 3 and he distracted the audience with a spirit ball. Following this, he appeared as Shadow, and they were all shocked to see the most wanted man in the kingdom. He introduced himself to the audience as Shadow, and Jack belonged to the cult of Diablos. He said that Shadow would regret showing up at the dome, and he unleashed his powers. At that moment, a portal opened and Jack didn't understand what was happening. Sheed was impressed, and an ancient warrior appeared in the sky in front of him. Beta said that Aurora is the Witch of Calamity, and she once rained chaos and destruction down their world. However, she knew that Jack knew more about the witch Aurora, and she seduced him so that he would answer all her questions. Alexia and Rose were disgusted with Jack, and he told them everything he knew about Aurora. Sheed sensed that Aurora was similar to him, and he knew that their fight would feel like a conversation. Suddenly, she started attacking Sheed, and he enjoyed dodging her strong attacks. Beta noticed that Shadow could dodge all of her attacks, and Alexia knew that no ordinary Dark Knight would be able to dodge Aurora's powerful spells. Then Sheed smiled, and he had a lot of fun in his fight against Witch Aurora. He was grateful that he was able to meet her, and was sad that he had to end the fight. So Sheed began to initiate a counterattack, and he defeated Aurora with a single attack. Aurora was defeated by Shadow, and he knew that Aurora couldn't use her full powers. Finally, Shadow disappeared, and everyone was shocked that he had won against a monster. A short time later, a magical circle activated that opened a door to the Sacred Land. Alpha was already waiting for this moment, and she suspected that Shadow was the key to the door. Then we see Sheed. He was on the roof of the dome, and discovered a huge door. He looked at the magic circle, and he realized that the magic was chasing him. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape the magical door, and he felt that he would have a lot of fun if he entered it. A short time before, the audience also saw the magical door, and Jack was surprised that the sanctuary responded to Shadow. He then explained that the gate normally only opens once a year, and they only respond to people who have the right to pass through it. Following this, the goddess trial was cancelled, and Alexia sensed enemies. Jack realized that Shadow Garden had appeared, and they said that nothing will happen to them as long as they don't move. Epsilon defeated all of the church's guards, and Alpha went with Delta towards the portal. Meanwhile, Alexia sensed that Alpha is very strong, and they entered the sanctuary door. Jack said that they were not allowed to enter the sanctuary, but Epsilon ordered them not to do anything until the door was closed. Then Epsilon prioritized her mission to take Jack into the portal. Suddenly, an assassin appeared and cut off Epsilon's fake boobs. She was angry and she didn't want to reveal that her breast size was A. As a result, she defeated the enemy and she wanted to kill Jack immediately. Alexia and Rose didn't understand why Epsilon was angry and they took Beta into the portal. Suddenly the portal closed, but Alexia also jumped into the sanctuary. However, Rose followed her, and Beta was surprised to see the two girls. Afterwards, Beta argued with Alexia because her hand was on her breasts and Alpha showed up. Alpha looked at them and said that they can do whatever they want. Following this, Alpha said that they planned to find out the truth about the sanctuary. She knew that Jack wouldn't reveal anything about the cult of Diablos, and they discovered a statue of Olivier. Alexia was surprised that Olivier was a woman, and Alpha wanted an answer why Olivier looks exactly like her. Shadow Garden already suspected that the cult of Diablos were up to something big, and they opened a door to find out the truth. Jack was shocked because she was able to open the secret door, and water came out of the room. In the same time, Alpha said that they were entering a graveyard of Olivier's memories. Meanwhile, She'd met Aurora and she replied that she enjoyed her fight with him. She'd said he had fun too, and Aurora wished they had lived in the same era. Before he looked for a way out, Aurora asked if he could free her. She'd thought that tying herself up was part of her training, but she cleared up the misunderstanding. As a result, they decided to find a way out together. She remembered that the dimension is a huge prison where they can't use magic. Suddenly She'd said that he will somehow manage to destroy the prison, and he believed that he will find a way out. Meanwhile, Alpha's group arrived at a laboratory. She said that these were Olivier's memories. So we see that the cult of Diablos kidnaps children to carry out cruel experiments on them. Then we see She'd and Aurora said that they are inside a memory. He wondered why a little girl who looked exactly like Aurora was crying. Aurora slapped the little girl and said that crying wouldn't change anything. Afterwards, Alpha explained that Olivier was one of the few who were compatible with the Diablos cells. She said that the cult tried to implant demon cells into children's. Additionally, she said that Olivier was actually on a mission to get new Diablos cells. Jack refused to admit the truth and they saw more memories. Then they see that Diablos' arm was cut off, but the severed arm still caused problems. For this reason, powerful ancient artifacts were used to seal the arm of Diablos. Alpha said the true goal of the Diablos cult was to access the massive life force of the Diablos cells. She explained that their goal was failed because the supplements had side effects, and they discovered that Jack was on the research team. He had made a special item that tasted like Mr. Beast D's nuts, and Alpha asked for the name. So Alpha learned that Jack's research team called the item Bead of Diablos, and they tasted better than Logan Paul's prime drink. Alpha believed that the Bead of Diablos had two major flaws, and Alexia made fun of Jack for being bald. Alpha said that the Bead of Diablos needs to take in regularly, and she suspected that only the highest-ranking members of the cult received them. Suddenly he was killed by Delta and she threw him into a river. Alpha knew Jack wasn't dead yet, and he turned into a disgusting monster.